Hegseth lays it out for the press. We're going to get into it. Welcome to The Ordinary American. I'm your host, Paul Sarkis. Can't speak. I'm your host, Paul Sarkis. This is a special 9 a.m. show. Usually we're at 2 p.m. Monday through Friday, but today we're at 9 a.m. Special show, and we're going to get into Hegseth laying it out for the press, laying it out and showing people what has been really going on and why Iran has been able to be so strong for so long until Trump. Okay, we're going to get into a lot of other things here. We got Comey, we got Supreme Court, we got a whole bunch of things. We're gonna show a couple of clips. We got to include some Trump because we're MAGA here. Trump is the most consequential president since I don't know who. He's more consequential now than Reagan. And yes, he's doing a lot of the things that Reagan did, including with tariffs, including with taxes and deregulations, and we'll get into some of that. Okay, The Ordinary American, we are an anti-leftist show, which means we are anti-Democrat. We want as many people to wake up and stop voting for Democrats. At the same time, we want to confirm the reality of the 77 million people that voted for Trump. Put some comments in the chat. Irish Jim is in there. We need to spread the word. We got to get as much information out to as many people as possible because some people are still asleep. And as we say on this show all the time, it might even be our motto, voting Democrat is like breaking into jail. And by the way, the people who are voting Democrat who can afford to break out of jail are putting those people who can't afford to break out of jail in jail without their consent. Not very nice. Okay, we're going to get into it. This is Hegseth. Let me see if I can find it here. This is the video. Now, it's a long video. I'm not going to play the whole thing. I've tried to tee it up. What he's basically doing is he's calling out the press and he's saying you can either report the truth or you don't have to report the truth. But Iran was going to get a nuclear weapon. We're stopping it. We've destroyed their military. They've got nothing left. He's sort of laying out the case. And now he goes into the important part.
Navy, Mr. President, they no longer have a Navy commander. IRGC's Navy commander was killed overnight in operation. So no Navy leader. Now that here's the thing about the media, though. If President Trump had not acted, you'd be screaming, why not? And now that he has taken decisive action, you're asking, well, why did you? It's the same old tired playbook, TDS in your DNA. But the hardworking, God-fearing, patriotic Americans out there know better. And you alluded to this, President Obama, Mr. President. Here's a fact that you don't hear on your networks, that we know. Many of the Iranian military factories and bases that we're systematically destroying were paid for by the pallets of American cash that Barack Obama flew into Tehran under the Iran deal. You might call it an inconvenient truth. Iran took our money and turned it into weapons and bunkers and ammo. And now we're destroying those weapons, and you're righting, Mr. President, that grievous wrong. And make no mistake, we had to act. And our objectives are clear. No nukes, no Navy, and a complete dismantling of their missile program and defense industrial.
Okay, he goes into a few other things, but that's where I'm going to stop it because the most important thing for us all to remember is that the traitor, Obama, make no mistake about it, traitor, while he was president, he spied on the U.S. Senate. This was long before he spied on Trump. He spied on the press. Go look it up. James Rosen, I believe, was one of the guys. Okay. He was using all of the assets of the American government plus foreign countries to implement his leftist plan. He was doing what James Carville, we put this on an episode a few weeks ago. You can go look it up. It's on one of our thumbnails. James Carville, what did he say? Don't run on it. Don't talk about it. Just get in and do it. Talking about leftism. He's talking about lying to the people. That's what Obama did. And the Iran situation was the biggest example of that. Jewish Americans, I say this to you all the time. Dershowitz woke up. How you keep voting for Democrats is really a mystery. Barack Obama, who the Jewish Americans supported in numbers and in dollars, was giving hundreds of billions of dollars to Iran, which Iran was turning around and using to certainly help destroy Israel, but to create chaos around the world. We've mentioned this a lot. part of the problem with Iran is for the 40-something years that the mullahs were in charge, there was what they call an Iran terrorism tax. So $5 to $15 per barrel of oil sold was, which we were paying, which was going into the corruption. People were making fees off of that. And that was entirely because of Iran causing chaos. Obama funded that. His what did he tell us? He was so smart. And the guys over at the Kennedy School and Lurch, John Kerry, everybody was so smart that we ordinary Americans couldn't figure out that paying a brutal terrorist regime like the mullahs was not a secret way around to win. It was just them paying the bad guys with our tax dollars. And in some cases, they say they gave back Iran's money that was frozen from the 70s. Well, I got news for you. Who am I? I don't know anybody in the State Department. I don't know any of the Iranian regime. Okay, I just know what I read and what I look at and how math works. The mullahs took over Iran violently. They had the help of the CIA and MI6, but they took it over. All of the money, all of the resources, all of the natural resources in Iran, all the businesses, those belong to the Iranian people. The mullahs took it over. Us giving back we didn't give back their money. Obama essentially stole from the Iranian people and gave it to the mullahs, who then took it and, as Hegseth just said, built all their military capabilities, including their nuclear weapons. And as we can see now, Obama was either in on it or he was an idiot and was lied to by the Iranians, because the Iranians now say they've been building nuclear weapons all along. So this idea somehow that this stupid deal that Obama did was going to prevent Iran from getting nuclear weapons is complete nonsense. Hegseth is calling it out. Trump's plan is working. You want to bet against him? Worst bet since 2015. So we paid to create this problem. That's what this came down to. President Obama, I can't even stand to say that. President Obama paid the Iranians to create more chaos. We've gone into great detail on how Iran is really the epicenter of how the City of London, globalists, the empire, along with the neocons, helped control the world and keep us in chaos. Their brains, supposedly, with our brawn, they tricked us into using our military. And part of that was the Iran terrorism tax. Part of that was all of the chaos created in the Middle East. Trump is going commerce instead of conflict. Okay, so that was the Hegseth stuff. I wanted to go into that because I don't think this gets said enough. We got to remember what's been going on here. So everything that we have to do now, we have to get over the hump of the hundreds of billions that, by the way, none of it was spent for humanitarian relief. None of it was spent on the Iranian people. It was all military and went to Hezbollah and Hamas and all the other terrorist organizations around the world. Obama was a traitor. It was awful. And now Trump is cleaning up the mess in all ways. Okay. I want to play, speaking of Trump, I want to play a video because I can't help myself. I love these videos of Trump talking to the press the way they need to be talked to. All right, let's take a look at this. Little bit of an older one, but a goodie. Hold on, got to share it, got to get back to it.
Keep calling this the Chinese virus. There are reports of dozens of incidents of bias against Chinese Americans in this country. Your own aide, Secretary Azar, says he does not use this term. He says ethnicity does not cause the virus. Why do you keep using this? A lot of people say it's racist.
It's not racist at all. No, not at all. It comes from China. That's why. It comes from China. I want to be accurate.
I want to be accurate. It comes from China. Okay, that's an old one, but I want to play that for two reasons. One, we'll talk about the medical tyranny here in a second. Two, she was obviously wrong. It came from China. It came as Jon Stewart. I didn't pull it up, but it's a great clip. One of the smartest things he's ever said, and he hasn't said many smart things, but that's one of them. The coronavirus came from the lab in Wuhan called the coronavirus lab. That's not a quantum leap in logic. That's just logic. What Trump is doing there is he is labeling it. Why? Because he's trying to call out China. Okay? He's calling out China. That woman was wrong. Trump was right. Same thing with the Hegseth stuff. He is calling out Obama. Why? Because Obama was wrong. He shouldn't have given the hundreds of billions to Iran. Obviously, we know that now. This is one of the hallmarks of the Trump 2 administrations. He had to win 3, which he did, except for the coup that was successful by Obama, led by Obama. But Trump's 2 terms, one of the hallmarks is essentially telling the truth, calling it out. Iran exists as a military power, or did, that we had to take out because Obama fed them hundreds of billions of dollars. The Wuhan virus was a Chinese virus. It came from China. Trump was right, and he was saying it, and he was calling it out. And I love how he dealt with her. Just stone cold, like, because I want to be accurate. Just spectacular. Okay, just spectacular. Here's another example. Okay, this is, if you don't, and many of you probably do, but if you don't, the great James Woods, the actor, I'll put a plug in for Against All Odds, an old one, but a great early James Woods. Awesome. Okay, he puts out some great content. Do I have that up? Yeah, okay. And I just wanted to read this one. Let me see if I can move in, because this gets to the same thing that we're talking about here today. Trump and the Trump administration calling it out. The second the money laundromat was closed in Ukraine, the Democrats never mentioned it again. I've never seen a noble cause abandoned so quickly. They're such phonies. See what he's saying? He's doing the same thing that Trump did when he said to the reporter, it's a Chinese virus. I just want to be accurate. He's calling them out. The same thing Hegseth did, calling out Obama. We are here because Obama put in hundreds of billions into the Iranian regime. This right here is an example of James Woods doing the same thing. We were told it was so painful to see all the idiots who suddenly, they couldn't put Ukraine on a map, but suddenly they loved Ukraine and they needed the Ukraine to get our money. We have found out now that over 200 million of our money was funneled back to the Harris-Biden regime for the election. It's corruption. Anybody who's read any books about Ukraine or listen, anybody talked about Ukraine knows that Ukraine is the epicenter of corruption. And what James Woods is doing here is he's calling it out and saying, you Democrats, he's being polite and charitable, calling them phonies. I'm sure in a private conversation, he'd have stronger language. What is he saying? You berated us, telling us we had to give all of our tax dollars to Ukraine, that it was an existential threat, blah, blah, blah. And then what? Nothing. Just gone. Why? Because we don't let you launder our money through there anymore because Trump's in charge. That's why. So James Woods is doing the same thing, calling it out. And this is what Trump does so unbelievably effectively. Unbelievably effectively. Now, where is it? I want to get to, no, that's not it. We're going to go through, yeah, here we go. We're going to go now, we're going to skip ahead sort of to the great John Solomon, because this is another case of things being called out. We all know about Comey. He's been indicted, 86-47. Trump had a great Truth Social where he basically said 86 is a mob term. It means get rid of somebody. put, what is he, how, I forget how it works, something 6 feet under, put somebody 6 feet under, 80, I forget what the 8 stands for, put them 6 feet under, okay, kill them. Comey was out back then, he blamed it on his wife, complete beta, but Trump makes the point that Comey's a dirty cop. Comey's a dirty cop, Wray was a dirty cop, Mueller was a dirty cop, McCabe was a dirty cop. You get the pattern? All of the people that rose to the top of the FBI during certainly Obama era were dirty cops. Why? Here we go. We're going to get into it. Because the Clintons were such a big crime family with the Clinton Foundation. Solomon's going to get into it here in a second. We're going to go over it. That the FBI had to be completely corrupted, and all of them shut down investigations into the Clintons. Sally Yates, she was the biggest one. She wasn't a director of the FBI, but she was in the Department of Justice. I think she was number 2. And she said, shut it down. When they had, I think it was 3 or 4 investigations, New York, Little Rock, and DC, FBI offices, all asking for grand juries because the Clinton Foundation was obviously a pay-for-play bribery scheme. I'm going to use, I don't know if he would agree with it, but the great Dave Chappelle, he's a funny bastard. And he used this line during the Juicy Smollett, which he called out as a fake. He said, he was obviously lying. The Clintons have obviously been lying. This is the same thing, the same nonsense. We have to believe the unbelievable. Obama tells us we're going to give hundreds of billions to the Iranians, and secretly that's going to stop them from making a nuclear weapon. Retarded logic. He said, don't worry about the 400 million in cash and gold coins we sent over on an unmarked plane. Ignore that. We got back Bo Bergdahl, a traitor. Okay? Same thing with the Clinton Foundation. Oh, no, the Clintons are doing good work. They're doing charity work. No, they were not. They never were. The Clintons have been dirty since Arkansas, really since Hillary Clinton worked on the Watergate investigation. Okay, so here's Solomon going to talk a little bit about what's going on now in these investigations. These guys have done unbelievable work. I just want to go back and read a little bit of this, okay? In the annals of American statecraft, few scandals, I need the glasses, rival the Clinton Foundation's protection racket. Declassified FBI timeline exposed 3 independent field offices, so it was 3, New York, Little Rock, and DC, developing predicated cases of outright bribery. Foreign governments poured hundreds of millions into the family foundation, while Hillary Clinton, as Secretary of State, delivered official favors in return. I mean, outright bribery, getting rich off of our tax dollars. 4 Obama-era U.S. attorney offices were asked for grand juries, all refused. FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe ordered no overt steps. Deputy number 2 AG Sally Yates delivered the coup de grace. Shut the effing thing down. While this influence empire operated in plain sight, the same circle allegedly orchestrated the Russia collusion hoax to neutralize a political threat. Quid pro quo, not charity. Patronage, not philanthropy. A modern Medici court in NGO clothing, protected at the highest levels of the Obama Department of Justice. The rule of law was not blind. It was bought. Okay, now we're going to play a little of this video, but I want to highlight a couple of things. First of all, McCabe. It was publicized back then, but just so we're all clear, he was corrupted. His wife was running for a state Senate seat in Virginia. Terry McAuliffe, who I think he was the governor at the time, or if he wasn't, he was the former governor or soon-to-be governor. He arranged a $700,000 donation to McCabe's wife's state Senate campaign. $700,000 for a state Senate campaign is essentially infinity. Nobody does that. Okay? A state senator does not have that much power. That was a bribe. That was McCabe. Sally Yates and all these folks were intricately and intimately involved, as Solomon points out, in the Russia hoax nonsense. If we're getting to the end of that, I suspect, by the way, that Solomon is going into this stuff and really focusing on it. I suspect that Hegseth was mentioning the Obama paying Iran because something might be happening. I hope, listen, I'm like you. I'm skeptical because nothing's happened, but there's the grand conspiracy case down in Florida, Joe DeGeneva, who, if you watched him over the years, he was not vague about his point of view on what went on during the Russia collusion nonsense. So I suspect some of this is all related because they know what's building. But let me play this, and I might skip around a little bit, but this is the great John Solomon. If you're not following him, you should.
Comey exonerated Hillary Clinton without authority to do so and without finishing his investigation when it came to the classified emails. Tonight, we're going to tell you about the other Clinton investigation, one that was running in 3 separate FBI offices, New York, Washington, and Little Rock. It was a predicated criminal investigation that was examining whether Hillary Clinton ran a pay-to-play scheme that delivered favors from her perch as Secretary of State while foreigners and others paid large sums of money to her family foundation, the Clinton Foundation, run by Bill Clinton and their daughter, eventually Chelsea Clinton. 3 separate agencies, 3 separate bureaus, offices of the FBI believe they had predicated evidence to pursue that. Every time they tried to move the ball down the road in the shadows of the 2016 election, they got shut down. I mean, they got shut down at the highest levels of their agency. Andrew McCabe, the deputy director, a man who potentially had a conflict of interest with Hillary Clinton. His wife got money from Hillary Clinton's former campaign chair to run for a Virginia state Senate. And by the way, McCabe attended the meeting where that assistance was solicited. He eventually was conflicted out, but not before he gave the order to his agents that you won't investigate or do anything on this unless I approve it. Downstream from them, 4 different U.S. attorneys' offices under Barack Obama were asked for help by the agents. Agents need help. We need a grand jury. We need to get evidence. We want to move the case down the road. All 3 of those 4 offices told the agents, you're on your own. We will not assist you in your pursuit of criminal charges.
Okay, that's a long clip, but I think it's an important clip. Now, one of the things to keep in mind is that certainly in any business, any organization, people want to grow and move up and get raises and succeed. Okay, and sometimes, unfortunately, in any organization, there's what you would call sort of political considerations. The boss doesn't like me, or the boss does like me. If he likes me, I'm going to get my promotion. If he doesn't like me, I'm not. The problem in government is that there's not a huge amount of direct sort of compensation. So you're not going to get stock options. Your salary is sort of capped, even though it's still can be fairly large, few $100,000. But what they can do is they can get more power. And so what we know from the Comey papers, his own handwritten notes, is that he was very focused on the fact that Hillary Clinton was going to give him a bigger job. I can't remember what he was looking for, but that I think his words were, Hillary will be very happy with how I handled this when he shut down the investigation into her server. Same thing here. When you hear those words, you're on your own, when that's being passed down in something like the FBI or the Department of Justice, that is a threat. When the next regime takes over, you're on your own. I'm going to be on the good side. You're not. And you're going to get shivved. That's the threat. And you can see that there must have been some decent FBI guys in there because they were pushing to say, we have enough information. The next step here is a grand jury to see if the grand jury will indict. What would have happened if that was to go forward? Well, 2 things, and this is why Sally Yates, McCabe, etc., all shut it down. 2 things would have happened. 1, once that floodgate opens, and though that information starts to flow and a grand jury gets it, it was obviously a pay-for-play scheme. Now listen, you hear me say this all the time. Everybody is innocent until proven guilty, even the Clintons and even Obama. And the information that we have, forget about the information that a grand jury might have, is obviously that something was going on. That would have changed public opinion. It would have got the focus off of Trump, which is where they wanted everything to be, and the Russia fake collusion stuff or impeachment nonsense, and back on them. Remember, the original Hillary plan was that they needed to get the focus off of the email server with her classified emails going over a non-protected or being used in a non-protected way, and the deleting of all those when they were under federal subpoena, congressional subpoena. She wanted to get that off of her, the focus, so they created the Russia hoax, the dossier, to put it on Trump. And then Obama said, thumbs up, yeah, let's do that. Why? Because they knew that if the American public heard enough of this, it would do what it should do, which is steal votes away from Hillary because she was corrupt. All of this could have been, I had an episode last week sometime, and I think I titled it, What Would America Look Like Without the Left? Just think, what would America look like if Hillary and then Obama and everybody else didn't have to corrupt everything so badly that they created the Russia hoax, the impeachment, they shut down these legitimate investigations into the real corruption, they sent money over to Iran, hundreds of billions. Okay, COVID, we haven't even got to that. We're going to mention that briefly here in a second. We now have enough information to know that not only was COVID another scam and scheme, but they all knew that the vaccine was deadly. If we take all of that out, all of the left, all of the Democrats' nonsense, what does the last 10 years look like? Way better than it's been. Way better than it's been. Okay? This is the power of Trump. He has stuck with this, and he is making America great again. This show is just another in a long series of other great shows and great people like John Solomon trying to get information out, trying to make sure as many people understand what's really going on, because I am constantly surprised when I talk to many people in my world. I'm from Massachusetts. I lived a long time in California, in LA. Huge Democrat strongholds. Most of the people in my world are still clinging to this notion. I think it's a desperate mental attempt not to have to face the truth that the Democrat Party is a complete leftist party, and they've been lying to you all along. As James Carville said, don't talk about it, don't run on it, just do it. Lie to the voters. If you've been voting Democrat, you've been rolled. Unless you are a true blue leftist, which is very few people, then you need to wake up and move on. All right, speaking of moving on, I want to play this. This is kind of funny. I don't know if you're following the mayor's race in Los Angeles, but Spencer Pratt, if you don't know him, that's completely reasonable. He was a guy on a reality show on maybe on MTV. I think The Hills. I can't remember. Anyways, when the fires a year plus ago tore through LA and destroyed 7,000 homes, his was one of them, and he was pissed and he had enough. So he started to film a whole bunch of things and just post constantly, dozens of times a day, dozens and dozens, with new information, essentially proving that the reservoir was not filled on purpose, that would have been able to use to fight the fires. He was the one who, as I remember, first exposed the phone call that Bass is essentially saying, we don't care about the fires. He decided at some point to run for mayor of Los Angeles. I hope he wins. Okay. This is a commercial that's Latinos for Pratt. Okay, I'm putting this up for a couple of reasons. One, remember in 2024, Trump won, I think it was all of them or nearly all of the border precincts in Texas, which he didn't win all of them in 2020, and certainly not in 2016. And the common belief was that all Latinos, because of course Trump's a racist, which he's not, and he's putting up a wall and he's preventing illegal immigration. So all the Latinos will be against that because they want illegal immigration. Well, it turned out that wasn't true. I used to say this a lot. I've mentioned it on the show. If you lived in LA at any point in time, you always, if you spend any time going to Home Depots, you would see the illegals waiting to get hired for day labor jobs. And if you live long enough in LA, you're going to meet illegals. You're going to work for you. You're going to see them there. They're going to be in your schools. They're around. They would always say the same thing. They understood economics better than Democrats. They understood that when they got in, their wages went up when the door was shut behind them. Supply and demand. If there were fewer people at Home Depot on a Tuesday morning, they knew their wages were going to be up. So if there were fewer people that made it over the border, fewer new workers in that employee pool means the wages are going to go up. If there was more, the wages would go down. So the Latinos were figuring this out. Now, this is a big deal, I think. This is a commercial for Spencer Pratt running against Karen Bass, and I can't even be bothered to remember the even farther left than Karen Bass person who's running from the LA City Council. But watch this.
Latino por Pratt, tú verás, Mayor 2026. Ahí va. Mayor Karen took a trip way off the map while the hills caught fire. She was posting from abroad, Palisades go out the Dana, smoke in the sky. We were coughing in the kitchen, she was saying, bye-bye. Spencer, saca la basura. Look what she left on our block. LA looking like a closet where the junk can talk. Spencer, saca la basura.
Okay, I'm not going to play the whole thing. You can watch it. I think it's pretty great. It's got a great tune, too. I don't even have to understand Spanish to get the message. Okay? Spencer Pratt, I hope he wins. I don't know. I'm not following it that closely. I happen to believe, because I've worked I volunteered for to work the polls in LA, which I'll talk about in a second. So I believe it's totally corrupted. So I don't believe that he can get a fair race. But if he does, I think he'll win. And if he doesn't, if it's an actual fair race and he doesn't win and LA continues to vote in these leftist buffoons, then LA gets what it deserves. But Spencer Pratt deserves your attention. And he deserves, I think, because he's the only one who's talking about the real issues. And I hope if he gets in, he brings in the Department of Justice right away. Because the amount of corruption in LA, we've talked about the hospice stuff, et cetera, is unbelievable. My quick personal story, 2014 or 15, I decided I wanted to volunteer at the polls to sort of see what was really going on, because I couldn't believe what I would see in LA when I lived there. When you go to your training, they tell you one message over and over and again. Turn no one away. No one. If they don't speak English, don't turn them away. If they're not at the right poll place, don't turn them away. Well, what are you supposed to do? Give them what they call a provisional ballot. What's a provisional ballot? You fill out a provisional ballot by hand, you put it in an envelope, and you stick it in a black box that goes downtown to be counted later. And supposedly, what they tell you is downtown, they'll open it up, they'll check that person and make sure they're a registered voter. Do you notice anything about that process? The ballot is opened and they can see what the person voted for. If you wanted to destroy ballots, this was, by the way, before the mail-in ballots became ubiquitous. So if you wanted to have ballots that they could manipulate or remove, you'd want to read them. So you'd do a provisional ballot. So if I went to the wrong place and my real polling place was down the street, and they wanted to get rid of my ballot because it was going to be a Trump ballot, if I went to my real polling place, it goes into the computer, and they didn't at that point, I don't think they couldn't manipulate that data. But if it was on the handwritten ballot, they could. Corruption. Okay, so I don't know that Spencer's going to get a fair shake. I hope he does. I hope he does. If you want to follow another great person on X, Adam Carolla, he is just full of knowledge in terms of the rebuilding. And I think now what I heard lately is that there's been maybe 20 homes rebuilt, but the Chinese are buying up all the now vacant lots. Just disgusting. Just disgusting. Okay, there's a pattern to all this. Okay, we see the pattern. It's the Democrats have to lie about everything. The Russia hoax, the Iran money, the Clinton Foundation, Karen Bass is lying about everything with regard to LA. Oh, you're all supposed to just assume that there was a terrible fire and you can't prevent it. We humans have conquered fire. We have water. We have water transportation systems. Oh, it was empty. Why? Because they had to fix a hood for it or something that was like $150,000. So for $150,000, 7,000 homes got burned down. 7,000 homes got burned down in LA. What about the fires in Maui? Seems awfully similar. Okay, listen, there is an endless stream, sadly, of this corruption and awfulness. We are here to try to pass on the word and wake people up. We are 100% supporters of President Trump. He is doing so many things on a daily basis, it's hard to keep up. He's also causing the rest of the world to do bigger things. We'll probably get into it tomorrow. I wanted to get into it today, but I mentioned a lot, UAE leaving OPEC. That's Trump doing it. We're now exporting. We're deporting too, not enough. We are exporting now 6 million barrels of oil a day. What does that mean? It means that we never did that. We are exporting, which means drill, baby, drill worked. We have enough for ourselves. We are exporting to the rest of the country, to the rest of the world, which means all the bad guys, need to come and buy oil from us. The other bad guys can't produce oil, Venezuela, Iran. That's Trump. The Democrats are fund the bad guys, corrupt the Department of Justice to allow the Democrats to do crimes and steal our tax dollars. I'll remind everybody, 4.7 trillion a year is what Doge said was leaving the Treasury General account untraceable until they got in and fixed it. Untraceable for a reason. Life under the Democrats. Okay. That is today's show. We really appreciate you being here. The like, follow, subscribe, it helps the algorithm. If you can, retweet, re-X this out on your X account. Send us an email if you've got questions or topics you'd like us to dive deeper into. We do weekend shows where we dive a little deeper, try to do about 15-minute to 20-minute sessions. You can see some of our past episodes. We are on Spotify, on X, The Ord American. That's our show notes. Everything I talked about will be there, including that great video for Spencer. And the email is theordinaryamerican@proton.me. I always like to mention that the great Father Mike Schmitz says, I'm praying for you. Please pray to me. Pray for me. That's awesome. I like to also say, I'm rooting for you. Please root for me. We'll see you tomorrow, 2 p.m. back at the normal time, where we're going to deal with a whole bunch more. And hopefully President Trump will give us some more comedic, great